Welcome to Good News Bowie. Good morning, peace and love. I'm your host, Darius A. Stanton, and we're about to share some good news, Bowie. So, over the past weeks, you've been able to see a gentleman by the name of Jimmy Gardner. We interviewed him some time ago, and I got a chance to actually attend his panel on wrongful convictions. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We also had an opportunity to go to one of the most historical moments, one of the reasons why I actually moved to Prince George's County from Anne Arundel County. And that was simply because I believed in the intellectual capital, the huge amount of resources that Prince George's County has, budding resources that I knew would just turn into a great deal of promise. And so that promise is starting to be realized. And that was the fact that 18 women were honored by the Bi-County Business Roundtable and an organization by the name of Sisters for Sisters Incorporated for their positions of power in Prince George's County. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Also, coming up this week in Annapolis, Maryland, a regional festival that is 30 years old, the Kunta Kinte High Heritage Festival. That's right, the Kunta Kinte Festival has been in existence coming up on the 28th of September for 30 years. Anytime somebody can keep something for 30 years, it's a pretty big deal. People don't even stay married longer than 3 months, 3 years, let alone 13 or 30, right? So we'll talk about the Kunta Kinte Festival, give you a little details and the lineup. It's a great opportunity to get out and just enjoy the city of Annapolis if you haven't been there often, but we're going to cover that as well. And there was a pretty big deal here in the city of Bowie dealing with a text amendment in the city council, actually the county council in Prince George's County. And so it's right outside the Bowie line, but the significance is there were a lot of people in the community throughout the city of Bowie, the corridor of Church Road, that stood up and said, hey, we're not happy with the fact that we may have 500 new townhomes built on the airport property on Church Road and increase the number of cars by almost 1,500. And anyone who lives in the Bowie area knows that Church Road during rush hour, that 2-lane street that is called a road, one way going and one way coming with all kinds of snake curves on it, is not the place you want to be during rush hour if you're pulling out in any of those communities. And so over 75 folks went to the council meeting and they stood up and said they didn't want it. And so the council pulled it down, and they'll be bringing it back up potentially for another vote. But we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So I'm your host, Darius A. Stanton, and we're going to be talking about good news, Bowie. So now, know this: anytime you have any good news in the city of Bowie, outside of Bowie, the state of Maryland itself, or throughout the nation or the world for that matter, send it to us. Our Facebook page is Good News Bowie with Darius A. Stanton. You can send it there. Also, you can send it to goodnewsbowie@gmail.com. Or you can reach us at our phone line at 410-703-1898 and give us a call, and we'll take your information from there. And then, of course, you can reach out to us here at Bowie Municipal Cable Television, and we will work to get it on air. So that's how you can get your information, your business covered, your community event, anything that you like to put out there that's good news. We want to hear about it, because the premise of Good News Bowie is to make sure we promote good news. You watch a lot of other shows and they're talking about who got robbed, who got shot, what ugly things are happening in politics. And our focus is solutions, who's doing it, what are they doing, and what can you do to be successful. So let's get at it. So we're going to start with the event that took place for the Congressional Black Caucus, which happens every year here in the District of Columbia in the month of September. And this time, without fail, there were a number of tremendous workshops that took place. And I'm going to share just two with you. The first is the National Black Hotel Association held their annual conference during the Congressional Black Caucus weekend. And it was a really impressive showing because I was unaware of the over 50 hotels in the United States. Doesn't sound like a lot, but I wasn't aware of 50. It's close to 100 actually, hotels that are owned by African Americans, men, women, married couples that are tied to chains. The Marriott Marquis in the District of Columbia, right next to the Convention Center, the Hampton Inn here, and the Hilton Garden here in Prince George's County is owned by an African American gentleman by the name of Evan Charles. Hopefully we'll be able to get him on the show. But I thought it was significant because you just don't see African American hotel owners on television or on the news or anywhere else for that matter. Of course, you see the big brands because they're franchise owners. So they own Marriott's and Residence Inns, which is, of course, a Marriott property, Wyndham, Choice Hotels. So a lot of the various, big name hotel brands have franchise owners whom are African American. And they talked about, some of the things and keys to being able to get involved in the business. The first was, if you want to become a hotel owner, was to do your homework, do your research, talk to people who are already in the business. The gentlemen who were on stage on the platform, and the Diaz, were they had first of all learned from each other. They got a lot of tips from one another. And so it really kind of paid off for them that they were able to get that information and learn. Now, some of them were at least landlords in the past. Some of them were involved in real estate in terms of selling real estate, so they had an understanding of the market. Some were actually in the hospitality field directly. Some started at the front desk, other jobs, and worked their way up in management to the corporate office, and they took the resources and skills that they learned from being in the industry, went out and then did number two, found solid partners. They talked about partners. How do you select partners? The importance, of course, of trusting partners. And they talked about partners being pretty much like a marriage because you're tied to these people with your assets and your resources. In some cases, people use the properties that they already have, 401ks. They borrow money from other family members just to be able to come up with the capital to be able to secure the capital. And you're talking about a good amount of money. So $200 million, $125 million, these are the kinds of investments that it takes to build from scratch. And then you can buy hotels that are already either failing, closed, and have already failed. And so those are existing properties. So the partners, who you choose as a partner. The third piece was the access to capital, and how important it's a capital intensive market. So you definitely have to have capital. Now, the good thing is that there are a number of African Americans and other institutions or individuals that are looking for opportunities to invest in people's properties and into people's businesses. And so there is a great deal, more than probably ever, from the conversation that I've heard and a few other circles that I'm traveling in at the moment, where there are people who have capital gains. A lot of folks in the Prince George's County, in particular here in Bowie, have resources that they're looking to invest. Otherwise, they'll be taxed to the tax man gets drunk with tax money. I don't know. But nevertheless, that is a big issue. So the fourth piece was actually location. Now, location might be top. That may be the number one item, actually. I probably reversed the order. And the reason being is because you can have the money, you can have a great partner, you can have a great team, partner, which would be your team and your skill sets and capacities. You could have the money and you could have the experience and the know-how. But if you do not have a solid location, you hear people say location, 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 that's going to keep those places, those rooms filled, then everything else really doesn't matter. Because people have to buy into your location and they have to buy into your package, right? Which is your document, what you put together on paper, your projections, your history, your past performance, all of those things. So if you're interested, They've got a great program where they help train. There are a number of chains that actually bring people in. So if you're interested, come on out. I mean, check it out. They have a conference that takes place in Miami every year, and that's the National Association of Black Hotel Operators. So look them up. It's a worthwhile venture. And also look into black hotels. If you want to support black businesses and be able to put some resources back into communities and people that who are reinvesting those dollars in your community, then look into it. All right. Next, the gentleman we had on the show 2 weeks ago, Mr. Jimmy Gardner, who was wrongfully incarcerated out of West Virginia. He was a former Cincinnati Red or Cub, I believe. I apologize. Chicago Cub, and he was in the minor leagues. He was playing for the team that was in West Virginia, and he got wrongly accused of sexually assaulting a mother and a daughter, and actually went to jail and was sentenced to 50, 60, 70 years. Well, he actually served 3 years before he found out that his case had been, that they falsified evidence. And the gentleman who did it was a state trooper in the forensics department, and he did the same thing to 140 other individuals. So he spent 3 years wrongfully convicted to find out in his third to fourth year that the person who did it did the same thing to him to 139 other people. And he sat in jail another 26 years. So if you haven't seen that show, we will probably rerun it, but another 23 years, and just released in 2016, now married and speaking out and actually created a Gardner Center in Atlanta where he's helping people transition from prison back into society. So look up the Jimmy Gardner story. You can go to jcgardnerspeaks.com. That's jcgardnerspeaks.com, and learn more about his story and what he went through and those challenges. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll give you more good news, Bowie. Welcome forward to the Good News Bowie. Good morning. I'm your host, Darius Stanton, and we're here to talk to you about some more good news. Well, I talked to you a little bit before the break about Jimmy Gardner, and I want to give you that information again. That's the Jimmy Gardner story. You can look him up on jcgardnerspeaks.com and learn all about it. He was wrongfully convicted, spent 27 years in a maximum security prison in West Virginia, where he literally said that the windows were broken out. And during the winter, you can imagine how cold it is in West Virginia. Snow came in through the windows and the toilet froze, just based on he had to use his shank to unblock the toilet so that he could use the bathroom. And he didn't even commit a crime. Can you imagine that? And the guy, he knew about it for 3 years. So check the story out. The guy who knew about it, they found out 3 years after he was wrongfully convicted, and nobody did anything. His sentence was overturned, and he is free and released. But we need to make sure that our legal system is checked. There's another event that took place about 2 weeks ago. Our state's attorney here in Prince George's County did a phenomenal job. She has come up with, she had a panel where she actually released a policy briefing, where she actually released what she's doing now to address juvenile crime. She's actually, instead of working to incarcerate juveniles, she's looking at the root causes. And so, when you think about juveniles going to, committing crimes, why are they doing it? What is making a young person, go through these things? And so she's now increasing the amount of mental health evaluations. She's looking at the charges that have taken place across the board, having her office do that to make sure that young people are not sitting unjustly, as in the case that I just mentioned to you. She's also looking into the family situation to see what services and supports can be provided to the families. You know, hurt people hurt people. And that's how young people end up in jail and incarcerated anyway. And a lot of times, because there was a study done in Baltimore City where you had at least, they looked at violence and homicide. And what they found was out of 50% of the children who under 6 years old who had cases of homicide or violence, by the time they were 6, they all had cases of child abuse and neglect. No, 47% had cases of child abuse and neglect. If they lived to be 17 years old, the victims and the perpetrators, 97% of them had a case of child abuse and neglect filed on their behalf. 97% of those young people in that space that were 17 years or up to 17 years old. Can you imagine that? So hurt people hurt people. And our state's attorney, I apologize, is working extremely hard to make sure that we're addressing these issues. And so she's looking at, you know, what can be done in these young people's lives to help turn the corner, what can be done in the families' lives, and that'll break the cycle. So I really, really, really appreciate the work, you know, that is being done. And we have a great deal to be thankful for. As a matter of fact, I actually had attended an event that 17 other powerful women, in addition to our state's attorney, Aisha Braveboy, the Bi-County Business Roundtable, actually, along with the Sisters for Sisters Network, put together 18 powerful women in business and in power. And those women were none other than our own state's attorney, Aisha Braveboy, our county executive, Angela Also Brooks, Senator Joanne Benson, our very own Prince George's Community College, Dr. Dukes, Delegate Diana Fennell, Delegate Tawana Gaines, Senator Melanie Griffin, I mean the list, Dr. Anita Bro from Bowie State University, the fire chief of Prince George's County, Tiffany Green, is now an African-American woman. These women are doing some phenomenal things. Andrea Harrison, and we also interviewed Miss Monique Anderson Walker, who's a county council member in Prince George's County and in District 8. And these women are running the county. County Councilwoman Jolene Ivey, Commissioner of the Maryland Park and Planning Board. She's the chair, Betty Hewitt. So, you know, these women are doing some phenomenal things, and they're running the show here in Prince George's County. And I really want to congratulate Delegate Darrell Barnes, the founder of the Bi-County Business Roundtable, and also Peggy Morris, who founded Sister for Sisters Incorporated, Network Incorporated, and they put this beautiful program on and honored these women. And the host of the show was Debbie Morgan. Not the host, I apologize. The host was Dr. Renee Allen. But the keynote speaker was none other than Debbie Morgan off the hit TV show Power, who used to be Angela off of All My Children. So picture that. She was started in television at All My Children, and now she's the grandmother of Tariq in Power. So she talked about domestic violence and the effect that it had. She said, I believe she had 8 brothers and sisters. Her grandmother was abused. Her mother was abused. She watched her mother be abused by her father. And she and the other 3 of her sisters were all abused and by men. And then she said that out of the 4 brothers she had, 3 of them were abusers and beat women. And so look at that. She talked about the generations of abuse. And so when we think about that, you know, men, if you've been abused as a child, if you watched your mother get beat or, you know, please do something. Go get therapy. You know, you probably don't even realize how devastating that has been to you and what you've been doing to other people as a result and to yourself. because of that trauma that you experienced, as a child. And, I encourage men, women, the same thing. Go get counseling. If you witnessed it, if you were a part of it, break the cycle. And one of the ways of breaking that cycle, in addition to praying, is, releasing it, going and getting counseling and letting it out and working until you find the counselor that gets you to a point where you can let it go. Because we've had so many cases in Prince George's County where people have killed their spouses, their children's mother, but there are men who are abused too. So there are women that are beating men and abusing men much more than you would realize. But the key is to break the cycle. And in order to break the cycle, we have to get treatment. We have to heal. And all of us are wounded from something. But for those of us who have experienced and watched and seen, some form of abuse to a woman or just someone else in your home, it has a traumatic impact on you. And so we should do something about that. Coming up, this is a big day. Now, I mentioned it at the top of the hour, we're going to actually be visiting and broadcasting from the Kunta Kinte Festival, September 28th at the Annapolis City Dock. That's right, at the Annapolis City Dock. And they've got all kinds of entertainment. And it is the 30th anniversary of the Kunta Kinte Festival. There will be drumming workshops. There will be a children's tent. Some of the performers will be Joe Keys and the Late Bloomer Band, the Clones of Funk, which is a local favorite. They play all the good flashlight, ow, bum ba dum bum bum, red light, down, bum ba dum bum bum, neon lights. Yeah, yeah, just a little bit of funk. Everybody got a little funk under the sun, under the sun, under the sun. I don't know, I got carried away. It just kind of the funk hit me. But all of that will be at the Kunta Kinte Festival. Rain, Kevin Smith and New Unity, a gospel band, Ndembe African Dance Troupe and Ensemble. There will be some steel drums. And also, Chris Dillard will be one of the comedian guest hosts, and Trey Chaney from The Wire and Saints and Sinners will also be guest host. So no charge at all. It's at the Annapolis City Dock, September 28th, and it's the 30th anniversary of the Kunta Kinte Festival. I'm excited. I'm from Annapolis. I live in Bowie, been here 19 years, love it. But I was on the first planning committee for the Kunta Kinte Festival. So to the Blackshear family, it was founded by a gentleman by the name of Leonard Blackshear. His wife, he's since passed, rest his soul. But he had a vision, and the vision was to bring to life a celebration honoring Kunta Kinte as a result of the Alex Haley story. And you know that there's a plaque of a monument of Alex Haley that is at the City Dock in Annapolis, Maryland. But the Kunta Kinte Festival started. And, Kunta Kinte came from Gambia, West Africa. And, the torment and all the travesties that took place and the millions of people that lost their lives, and that journey, that just kind of goes by the wayside. But this is a day where, the heritage of African Americans here in the city of Annapolis is uplifted. In Virginia, in Jamestown, they just celebrated this past summer 400 years since the first boat was brought to Jamestown with slaves, which brought, the first boat, the slaves to America. So think about that. In that short period of time, 400 years, we had a president recently that was an African American. There's so many things that African Americans have done and created, inventors. And, I just learned this a few weeks ago, that African Americans were just allowed to get patents in the 1970s. So all the other things that they created, all the other ideas that they had, never materialized, or they materialized in somebody else's name, in somebody else's banking account, and somebody else's legacy that did not look like them, was not a part of their family, and it was all because of the color of their skin. But that is no longer the case, and people are able to put forward their ideas and move forward. And so, we want to shout out to Jan F. Lee, the chair, and all of those folks, the sponsors who are supporting the 30th anniversary of the Kunta Kinte Heritage Festival in Annapolis, Maryland, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. at Susan Campbell Park, and the event is free. Go to www.kuntakinte.org for more information. We're going to come back to you next week and talk about and bring in some of those women, highlight some of those women that were part of the 18 powerful women of Prince George's County. I want to close on that as we get ready for October. Can you believe it already? And the reason being, I want to talk about, just as we close with our Good News Bowie, good news you can use, is just highlighting and really uplifting women. You think about it, in the top 100 countries, top 100 businesses in Forbes magazine, less than 10 of them now are run by women, women's chief executive officers. You always hear about Hillary Clinton talked about the glass ceiling a lot. But I want to just, bring that up because when you think about that, even in the cases where they are CEOs of, top 100 businesses, they still have to answer to all male boards primarily. They're all primarily all white male boards. And so, women, whether they're African American, white, Asian, that's not the issue. The issue is that we just have to continuously push, and I'm really proud of Prince George's County for pushing these women, because women are still subjugated to so many negative things: abuse, neglect. They're still paid less for doing the same jobs that men are. Just the amount of abuse and neglect that goes on. There's so many women, the abuse on college campuses, 1 out of 5 women are raped, or experience sexual assault in college. The numbers are just so upside down. And so as men, I want to say to you, when you have a chance to stand up for women, to make sure that when people are saying something that's inappropriate, stop it. Do something about it. When you have a chance to promote a woman who's qualified and deserves the opportunity, promote that woman. Women, stand up, continue to work together, continue to believe in yourself. If you get a chance, look at Angela Bassett. She talked about, she won the Achievement Award for Black Girls Rock. It doesn't matter what color you are, just as a woman, listen to that speech. As a matter of fact, men, listen to that speech. Angela Bassett, Black Girls Rock, BET 2019. It was so powerful. It will change your life. It definitely woke me up a little bit more. And for women themselves, it will do wonders for you, because she talked about just being the best and knowing who you are, and proud of being a woman, and proud of your accomplishments and what you're capable of. Don't let anybody tell you you're not able to do it because you're a woman. You can do it. We know you can. This is Darius A. Stanton for Good News Bowie. Thank you so much for joining us every day, 8:30 in the morning. And again, if you have some good news, send it in to us at Bowie Municipal Cable Television, or reach out to us on Facebook at Good News Bowie, hosted by Darius A. Stanton. Thank you so much, and go out and make some good news, Bowie.